the main idea needs to be to talk about your life in a way where you're basically showing her all your value. Well, this is where the fine line is, because if you're bragging, it is low value. But if you don't mention things, they're not going to just realize like, oh, this guy's probably high value, he's probably successful, he's probably high status, he's probably ambitious. They're not going to know any of that just from you kind of talking and not sharing anything. And that's why this whole mindset comes in. It's like, be very mysterious. Yeah, look, you don't want to brag, you don't want to reveal, you have to also understand investment principles. You don't want to invest too much if she's not investing. But at the same time, the only way she's going to know about you is if you tell her. But you don't tell her in a way that it's bragging. It's just like he's just saying certain words. Certain words are coming out of his mouth, but it's creating a certain perception. And that's the way the world works. I mean, we're always creating perception. So what you say is going to impact how others and how the girl sees you. You almost have to understand what character you're trying to create and how you're trying to frame yourself. The character that I'm always having in my head is, I want the girl to realize that I'm this successful business guy that has lots of free time. He's done so much cool things, but he's nonchalant about it because it's not really that important to him. You have to understand what narrative you're trying to create, and then you kind of phrase things and you frame things through that. When she's speaking to you, there needs to be this overall character on how she perceives you. There needs to be that, and you're in control of that perception. Okay, so that's extremely important.
So one thing, Gabriel, I noticed, just to follow up, is that, my journey has been, at least starting out, it was like DHB more, bro. We're always saying, you're saying that to all of us a lot. And I would just start throwing shit out there. I do this, I do this. And it's funny, I do that. And half the time they're very interested in it. And it's actually building your value. There are cases where I've done that and I just throw this stuff out there and I can see a look on their face like, okay, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
That's a little bit much, isn't it? And I just feel like I'm actually bragging. I'm actually verging to the extreme, because you have to find out where the walls are.
Yeah.
So again, would you recommend that we sit down and come up with some little stories that kind of say, yeah, here's the crazy thing about that. I've been running my business and then all of a sudden now I'm traveling and I'm having to deal with these Zoom calls literally 12 hours ahead. It's crazy, having to deal with that. And it's true. In Bali, I did a whole seminar, at 1 a.m. because it was 1 p.m. on this side. And I was doing this midnight thing. Stuff like that, where the interesting thing about the story is the conflict that arose, the sort of weird thing about it. And then you're dropping in all the Bali and the hooks and all the good stuff. Would that be a worthwhile thing to come up with these little scenarios, that created this spark of conflict that allows us to get the hooks in there, the DHVs?
Yeah, it's coming up with those stories, and it's also thinking of ways to demonstrate what you're trying to demonstrate in the story without telling the story. So, for example, I didn't tell stories about how I was traveling or what I did, but I just answered the question about what I do. I just answered that question in terms of oh yes, I'm a business owner. I've actually got clients in X, Y, and Z places. So again, it's dropping those hooks, even if you're just answering questions with one sentence. Can you still keep dropping those hooks? Keep dropping that there's potential value.